Hi everyone, welcome to Live with Janome. I'm just getting things started, so I'm going to hold here for just a moment, and we see how many people we get on board, and then I will get things started. All right. Let's see what we've got. All right, I'm going to open up now. All right, so welcome. Today we are doing the Zip Pouch of the Month. I'm Hein, embroidery software specialist for Janome America. And today, as I said, we're going to do Zip Pouch of the Month. I have a new one for you. Let me put the camera on and say a proper hello. There we are. Hi, everyone. So welcome to my studio. Today, every month we do a new one. I'm going to go over all the ones we've shown in the past. And I have an exciting one for you today. And as the months go on, I have some more great ideas for you as well. So if there's anything you can think of, you can always put it in the comments. And I can see how I can add that in to a lesson or whatever. If you wanted to get the class notes for this, they are over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook page. They're in the discussion right now. I haven't moved them into the guides at the moment, but they will be moved over there. Once the video is done, I will just move everything into our guides. It's like our big file cabinet, and inside guides are all the folders or the guides that we have as far as information about Artistic Digitizer. We have guides on our mystery quilt block party we did last year. The AD Skill Builder series is there. Videos I've done on this page about Artistic Digitizer I've brought over there as well. So it's a plethora of information, all kinds of videos. And I just posted recently how to find the guides and how to save a video. So that's an important document if you want to search for that. I think I posted it over on the Janome Classroom page. You can search by my name, or over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer or the Continental Club page. So without further ado, let me see what's going on here. Oh, there we are. I am going to go over to the camera and show you our previous pouches in case you haven't seen them. And then the surprise one is at the end for this month. All right, so let's go over there. Here we go. So we started the year out with a somewhat simple bag with a flat zipper. There's no lining in this bag. And we did a little embroidery. So this is January. And then in February, same type of bag, but we added lining. And we also added the what I call a slip pocket on the back. So we have that one. And then we did a top zip. So this one sits at the top. You can hang this off your belt, or if you want to do a strap on it, you can. This has lining as well, and a slip pocket with a little extra piece under. This was created in the sewing machine and then brought over. And then I used a cam snap there, or a faux cam snap. Here's another version of it right there. Then we went large like this. So this is the flat zipper one. It does have a slip pocket on the back. It has D-rings on it as well. You can always put these on. I started doing the zipper tabs over here so you can cover the ends of your zipper. And then this one, when you look inside, it has another pocket that's sewn in. You create the pocket in the hoop, and then you restart your hoop for the bigger one and you apply this pocket, and then you have the inside of that. Everything in here is lined and ready to go. You can see here I used those zip tabs right here. And then of course we have the side ones as well. All of that's, optional. I mean, you can create your own. I just like to give you the inspiration. In May, we did a double zip. So we have our top zip all lined. This one I put a bit of batting in, and I did some straight line quilting in the machine on this, in the software. I created that. And then we have another pocket down here. This is a little pocket just at the bottom. Someone just posted this on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook page. They used right here an invisible zipper. It looks great. So, and you can put decorative stitches on here. I didn't decorative stitch. I just used a straight stitch on there. No pocket on the back, but I did add hardware at the top. I did a second one with more of the quilting, but I didn't add hardware on this one. Of course, yes, it is lined on the inside. There we go. You could always add a slip pocket, lots of things. And did you see that? Last month we did the Happy Hippo. I just love little hippos. I've been following the hippos over on the Cleveland Zoo with Fiona and Fritz and BB and Tucker. So we made these as stuffed animals, and then I turned my stuffed animal into this. And for some reason, oh, here, just my tiny little one is here. So you could search back. This is where I got my design. I created it in the hoop for us when we were doing stuffies in the hoop. And then I just made it larger, and I added the lines that I needed to make my pouch. This is a two-part thing. You would stitch this part first and take it out of the hoop, and then you would create this portion and add the other part. It's all turned this way. Of course, it's all lined in there as well. So it's sort of left, right. And I haven't finished. I had the directions going for this, but this has a lot of left, right turning, and I just want to make sure I have it correct. So I haven't posted the class notes, but you do have the video on that. All right. And then here it is. Look at that. Here is this month, and I'm just going to bring this down so we have a little window. And if you read the description of the class, I think I put a window into creativity or something like that as a little hint. Let's see what else is okay. So I did a little vinyl window. Now you can see on the edges, I still have some of my stabilizer. I used a wash away, so I'll just go, it's on the inside. I'll just go in here a little later with a kind of a damp paper towel. I'll kind of show you. And then I'll just wet this to remove that. But there it is. There's my little USB stick. So we have a window. We have the tabs on either side. We have zipper cover tabs right here. And then I did the loops on the side. I can put D-rings in here, split rings or D-rings in there. No pocket on the back, but fully lined. And this one, I'm not going to turn it because it's a little hard with there. But when we create this, we're actually turning it through the lining down here. So the first time you turn it through the lining, and then it'll be like this way, and then you'll clear that zipper like we've done before anytime we've had a lining, and then you turn it out through this part. So there's no seam right here. It's all finished on the inside, and then there's a little spot at the bottom where you can hand stitch that little piece. You can put a little double-sided tape down there if you wanted, anything you want at that part of it. So we have that going. There we go. All right, and I did make my turning spot a little bigger this time on the inside. Usually it's a little smaller, but getting this in there was a little difficult because you have to kind of bend it. You have to be careful. You don't want to crinkle it too much. But I just love that little window in there. This is a two-parter. You'll make the window section, and then you'll start your bag and add this in when you start the front section of it. So pretty much this acts as your front piece. Just like, let's go back to, let's see which one. This one, this part here is actually this part right here, okay? We've just added this window to it, so it's two parts. And what I did is I used my RE46 hoop, and I have both of them in the hoop. I did the window first at the top, and then I took my hoop off the machine. I laid it on my cutting mat, and I used my rotary cutter and a ruler, and I cut it out of my stabilizer. So it really left my stabilizer secure in the hoop so I could stitch the bottom part. Now these aren't heavily stitched, so there's not a lot of drawing in. It's like sometimes when you have multiple things in the hoop, sometimes you have your stabilizer moving. And I, of course, use my magnets because you're only hooping your stabilizer. And then I do like to put some T-pins on the corners because that will help keep those from sliding in, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I want to talk about creating this, and then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to show you a little bit. I'm not going to stitch today because it takes a little while, but I'm going to show you how, using your vinyl, how you would create your piece, okay? All right, so let's go to the software and we'll take a look over there. I'm going to put that back under here so when we come back it'll be there. And I want to do one other thing so when we come back it'll be easier to see some things. Okay, there we go. All right, so let me open the software. Now what I did is I used a design that we'd used before. So I'm going to open up and I went back into January and I used the base of this for my our pouch. So the only things I had to do is take away this section here because I don't need it. Though, you know, maybe you could work some embroidery that goes on the inside somehow. It's a little tricky. You have to remember your left and your rights. So I made some modifications to this to create the front and then the rest of the bag. So let me open up what I call the front piece, and there it is there. I have an extra piece in this one. So I'm going to zoom in so we can see this a lot better. Here we go. And I'm going to go back to this one so you can see both of them in the hoop. All right, so this is how I would stitch them in my RE46. I would have this one on top, and what I would suggest is to load this one in and then stitch it, remove it, and then bring this design in, because when you have them both in there, you have numbers from 1 to like 36 in here. These we don't do. So 29. So these numbers won't match the directions as we go through it. So that way, you know, you'll understand it a little bit better. Okay, so let's look at this one up close. So this is the window section. There we go. And I started with a square. And actually the square, I moved to the last item, but I started with a square, and my square ends up being 6.5 inches wide and 5 3/4 inches high. And how I figured that out is I looked at my bag that I had and I created a shape in here and thought, oh, that's good. This will leave enough border around it, and this will be the vinyl window. So I made myself a little mock-up, and then I took that and I used it for the start of this. And then I like to turn on my grid and also my snap too, because I'm doing straight lines and I like them to be straight lines. And there are 2 lines on each part, and one of the lines will be our start out as all the placement area, and then the other line is the stitch area. So this outer one here and this line here, that's part of our placement, and then this would be where it gets stitched down on the inner side of that. All right, so let's turn on the grid so we can take a look at this. And I'm going to go up under view, which you can't see, and grid, and turn it on. And then I'm going to click off of this, go back to view. There is a shortcut you can use, and then snap. So snap is turned on. It's harder to see with the grid on, and I can also go to view, and I can change under, I think I'm on my Mac, so it's in a different spot. Edit view, custom UI colors. Let's see if I can make my grid a little less bright. This one here, I will turn it down. Okay, let's see how that works. There we go. Now it's not so shocking. So we can see our lines. So I have my square, And then the next thing I want to do is I want to put in those placement lines. So the first one I'm doing is a center spot, because this will help me find the spot where I'm going to line it up to the main bag. And this one here, I would actually make this a little longer so it sticks out like that. And when you're done with this, I cut, this is a 1/4 inch from this line up. This is a stitch line. I cut right along here to leave an extra 1/4 inch on the outside of this. So, and then, you know, you can decide how big your actual window is going to be, and that's this inner part in here. So I started out with my lines. So this line here, where are we with that one? It's over here. That's the top one. And then I have a line here, and this is the line that is to the outside. It's the gold line. So this will be stitched right on my stabilizer, and then these ones will come out later when we start adding the fabric. So I just went around and I figured out how, you know, how much space I wanted here, how much fabric I wanted showing. And I just did my line. So I did that one. I did the one going across here, down this way, and that way. Now, basically, once you create one line, you can copy, paste it, change the color, and then use your arrow keys and bring it over to the other side. It makes it so much easier when you're doing that. So you really only are creating one line here and one line there, and all your other lines are built off of that. So that makes sense, right? Oh, Tracy's here today. Welcome, Tracy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these lines that are actually my in for placement, and I'm going to turn them black so that you'll be able to see those other lines better. So let me see here. What do we got? We got that one, that one. We'll zoom back here. Let's see. And that one and this one. I think that's all. Oh, one more. That one. So let's make those black. I'm going to go to colors, and I'm just going to switch back to Janome here and pick this one here so they're all black. So now we can see a little bit better that these are going to stitch first. They're all the placement lines, and then what stitches after that are the tack down lines of my fabrics as I go around. And I'm adding my lining and my other fabric at the same time. Okay. And then at the very end, I have, oh, this is a sample square. Let's see, where is that sample square? This one here, I have an extra one in there for right now. I created one up here and then I moved it to the end. I copy and pasted it. So one of them is for the out, that should be black. Let me make it black. So this is all the placement. So when you stitch this down, you're first going to have this black section on your stabilizer. And then you will lay your vinyl right here over it so that a 1/4 inch of it is beyond these black lines. And then you'll start adding your fabrics. I think we start on the left and we add our top fabric and the lining. We flip it over to the back. We add the lining, flip it back and forth and go from there. So that's how those go on. And then I did this side, then the other side, the top and the bottom. And that's what all of these lines are for. They're part of the stitching down. I'm going to take the grid away because I think it's easier to see this with no grid. There we go. These are tacking down my top fabric and my lining. And then I use that same square, the yellow one that I turned black. This one here, I make sure all my fabrics are secure and I stitch them down again so they don't move when I move them to my bag. You can go in and you can top stitch here if you like. I did not top stitch on mine. So what I want to do is, you're going to have to bear with me on what this looks like on your stabilizer. Okay. I was going to stitch a mock-up, but my day sort of went a little haywire today. We have some other exciting things happening in our house right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a square, kind of what it looks like, and then I'll show you how to add the fabrics. We'll do a little bit of, once I can find my rulers. Here we go. All right, so let me get my little box drawn here, and then we'll go from there. It'll just take me a moment. And then the rest of the bag is really just following what we had before. So it's not that difficult to, to do it. So let me just get this. I got a couple more lines to draw, and we'll go from there. Now, I don't know if many of you have been following along, and I know some of you have been creating your zip pouches. So if you haven't, you have plenty of time to get them done. All right, so let me put the camera on and I will show you what I mean. All right, let's get camera. This is where I need my camera assistant. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so let's pretend, see if it goes over here. Takes a moment there we go. So I'm going to pretend this is my hoop and this is my stabilizer. So it stitches this first, and it also stitches that thing in the center. This is my placement. So the first thing I will do is I'll take my vinyl, all right, and I'm going to my vinyl's way bigger than I need. I want to make sure my vinyl would be a 1/4 inch beyond those stitch lines, which it is. It's way too big. I could put it kind of like this when I go to stitch it, so that I don't, which I've got some little holes in it I have to be careful about. These were stapled with a little label, so they're like I think they're like a 6 inch or 6.5 inch square. And then, and you can use different, I don't know what weight this is. It didn't say on the packaging. It's pretty firm, so you can use different ones. But you want to make sure it's at least a 1/4 inch beyond these lines, because the next line that's going to stitch will stitch right down here like this, just inside that. So I'm going to work on this side of my pouch first, and I'm going to add my top fabric, and it would be placed like this. You want to make sure that it is a 1/4 inch beyond that line as well, right there. And I would tape it down. I'm going to pretend that instead of you would take your hoop off, and on the back side, right side down, you would put your other piece. I'm just going to put that back on here. There we go. So it's going to look like in between here you have stabilizer. So you get that done. It sews this down. You flip this over, finger press nice, tape it, take this, fold it back as well so that it's under here like that. So your lining and your top fabric are done on this side. You do the same on this side. It'll stitch it down. You flip them back, tape them over here. You'll do the top part up, bottom part down. And then, as I said, it'll come back and stitch right on this line on the outer side. So in the directions, it'll tell you as you put these on, before you flip those back, you can trim your, if this isn't a 1/4 inch, like this side, I'm going to have to trim these away. After I stitch it, I would trim these away. So you don't need all this bulk. Once you do all that and you have it stitched, that's where, when it was in my hoop, I had a smaller ruler. I took my ruler and rotary cutter, and I just put it right on the line. So there's a 1/4 inch, and I cut right here, crossed here and around, and just lifted out that one section out of my hoop. So I had a big hole in my hoop, and the bottom part was ready for the other portion of the bag. So this would be all set. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to everyone. It's a little bit of trying the right wording as to how you lay the first fabric. So the raw edge is to the outside of the line, like that. And then it's going to stitch and flip. Okay. All right. Oh, we got some thumbs up there. So we got people. Very good. Very, very good. So that section gets done. So that is what this is right here. I have to wait for my camera to catch up. There we go. So that's what this part is right here. And just this bottom part. So when I go to my machine for the bottom part, let's go back to the software because you'll recognize this part. Let's go back to the bottom part here. So this part looks pretty normal, right? We know all those lines. It does look like a bit of gobbledygook on there, I'm sure. But when you start, here you go. Let me ungroup this because I did a copy paste to get over here. This one here is your placement. So it's going to stitch this outer part as placement. Let me go back a little bit so you can see. Then it's going to stitch your zipper placement box with that line for aligning your vinyl window. Okay. And then, if you don't quite see it on your window, you can always kind of gently fold and crease where it's going to be. It is a bit generous side to side, so it should be okay, but you do want the window to look like it's centered. Then, of course, you'll lay your zipper in here. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't go back to the software. Hang on. This is why, there we go. Let me go back. I'll go back. Sorry. Let me go back. I know everybody's going, wait a minute. There we go. Thank you. All right. There we go. Can everybody see now? There it is. So this is your placement, as I said. This is your zipper tack down, and I just added the center mark to it so that I know where to align my window when I lay it down here. Okay. And then the next two lines, I'm going to lay my zipper in here. Of course, I make sure it's longer than I need because I do not want that zipper head in the beginning to be in the way, or that metal, any of that metal. I want it at the outside. So it'll tack down the top portion. It'll tack down the lower portion. And then I have these lines here. So this line is the placement line for the raw edge of your zipper tab cover. All right, so you would put your zipper tab cover against here, lay the bulk of it over this way, and then it will stitch it down, and then you'll flip it back that way and just tape it. It'll get caught in later. Okay, so that'll cover. And at this point, when you go to do this one here, this is where I say move your zipper head to the middle, because now we're going to be closing off the end of the zipper. All right, and then it'll stitch that. And then it's going to come over here and do the same thing there and stitch it down. And then we are going to add our window when you get to this point here. So typically when you lay the window on there, you're going to align it. I think I put in there 1/4 inch beyond this point right here. This is your zipper box. So it should hang down 1/4 inch right side down, but the bulk of it goes back there because you're going to stitch it and flip it down. Okay, does that make sense? Since we've done so many, I think you guys know, and we could go back, you could go back and look at the video from January to see. I actually did it. I did a stitching of it so you could see. So it's going to stitch this down, then you're going to flip it down, and then I have this part down here that will hold it down. Before you flip it down, what you want to do is trim your window, the seam allowance, a little bit shorter, because when you go to do top stitching, you can top stitch lower. I don't have mine as low. You can top stitch lower and it will cover up that your seam allowance there. So it'll kind of hide that a little bit if you want to do that. But this one here is what holds it down here and keeps it secure. Yes, you could tape it, but you know what? This way you don't have to worry about, you're going to be flipping your, on the other one, you flipped your hoop back and forth. You're going to be doing some flipping of hoop back and forth with this one as well. This window is already lined, so you're not going to add lining. It already has its lining, so you're set with that. And then you're going to take your upper fabric that takes this area, and you're going to lay your upper fabric right side down with the bulk of it this way, along a 1/4 inch beyond your zipper, like right along your zipper tape. You want to tape the edges, take your hoop off, flip it over, lay your lining right side down onto the stabilizer, tape it, put it all back on the machine, and then stitch this. Once that's stitched, you can untape this and flip it up. Go to the back side, untape and flip it up. And then of course, it'll get caught up here as well. So you don't have to worry about so much tape on the back of your hoop. Finger press really good when you do this. So it'll be held up here. And then you're going to come down here. This is your top stitch. Now I did on my top stitch, I just did a straight stitch. We can see here, but you could pick any decorative stitch. Let's see if you could put any decorative stitch here if you want and adjust it, but that's up to you. This is where you can make your changes. You don't have to do everything that I do. All right, and some of you have sometimes you do things a different way, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't even think of that. So and that's what takes me so long in writing directions, because of which direction do you put things. And I do say in the directions to follow along in the video, and also if you're watching the video for this month, go back to the January one and refresh a little bit there. All right, so the top one is all taken care of. So all your front fabrics are on, your decorative stitching is on. Now you're going to add these, if you want those side loops, okay? And for the side loop, what you do is before you stitch this, you lay the raw edge out here and lay the folded edge over here. And I aligned it with my zipper tab right here. I made it about that long. And then you'll stitch it down, and then you'll go to the other side and align that one and stitch it down. Then we get to the closing. Now this is the part that really sometimes boggles everyone's mind a little bit. And what we're doing here, let me go out a little bit further. So once you have all this done, okay, you're going to add the back of your bag. So you're going to put the right side on here and stitch completely around. So it looks like that. It's going to go completely around, and it's outside where the lining's going to go. So it's going to hold that down. And then you can, after that stitches, you can flip your hoop over, add your lining to the back, and the lining will go right side to the lining that's on the back. So it's easy to remember. The front goes right side to right side with your front and back fabrics, which should be matching. And then the lining should go on the bottom, on the back, right side to right side. And that one will stitch like this, leaving an opening down here. And I'm going to show you this opening. Actually, I think what I'll do is I'm going to take that. Well, I'll create one on another page, but I'm going to show you what this looks like. Once you get this done, you can do edit nodes. I would make a nice wide, I don't think this is wide enough for me. So what I would do to change this, I could go right click here, custom node, delete this node, and bring this under here like this. I would probably put my grid on so I can see better and align it. Go over here. I'll show you how to do the opening in just a moment. Cusp, and then delete this one, select and delete, bring this over, point it up there. There we go. And so then I have a larger opening. This opening is on the inside. So your outside of your bag is completely closed, which is nice. You don't have any seams there. So let me show you. I'm going to go to a new page and show you how to create that opening. And we'll use our rectangle. And in the rectangle, you have roundness at the top. So you can put that, I think I typically use like 40%. And you don't have to have round corners. You can do it any way you like. And then you click and drag. There it is. I'm going to select it up here to turn that tool off. And then I'm just going to click right down here. I don't need the fill. I just want that outline. Now, because I created that from a shape, if I do edit nodes, it only gives me the shaping nodes for this shape. Doesn't give me any edit nodes on the shape. So to get those, you want to come up to your top toolbar and go to Convert, Convert to Curves, and then Edit Nodes. See, now I have all those nodes and I can adjust them. I'm going to come back down in here and I'm going to right click right here and see it says Split Outline. So I'm going to click there and it has created two nodes here. I'll move them apart. There you go. So you can see there's a little opening there. I didn't do it this way before. I used to use the knife feature, but this is so much easier. And then this is the one I'm going to right click on and turn it to a cusp node, or probably you could do a line, I think a line node also. Well, the line node takes this away, so you don't want to do that. So you want to do cusp because it keeps the corner. And then I'm just going to pull this under like I did before. Pop that up, point it there, point this one there. There's one opening. Right click on this one, cusp, left click and drag this one down, straighten these up. There you go. And now you have your opening for the lining. So you turn it, once you stitch this, it will, I'll go back. Once you stitch this part here, you're done. You can take it all out of the hoop. I trimmed it about 1/4 inch around. Any place I thought I needed to give it a little extra clip, I clipped here. Be very careful clipping though. You don't want to clip through the stitching, any of the stitching, because you could make a little hole on the front side. And then you would open it between the two lining pieces. Those are the only pieces you'll be able to get into, because this will be sewn down. Your front sections will be sewn together. So you can only go through the lining here. All right, turn it out. And then once you turn it out, you'll see the, you'll be inside your bag, and you'll see this with your stabilizer over the window. I would trim it at that point, open your zipper up the rest of the way, turn it all, you'll have to cut this area of your stabilizer. There's just that little section, because none of this has, well, you can remove all that stabilizer. And then open up your zipper and then turn it all through the zipper so that it looks like, I'll go back to my bag so you can see that. So it looks like this. Now, I think I clipped something. That's what I wanted to warn you guys about. I'm going to have to go back in and fix this. When I was turning, I clipped something there, so I have to go in and fix that, so that won't be too hard. But that's what I'm saying. Be careful clipping. Don't get crazy with the clipping. You do it gently at first, and then if you have to, you can change it from there. So down in here, this is where we turn it through the lining. Okay, that's that opening. That'll be the first turn, and then you'll turn it again. So there you have your bag. So I'm gonna have to go and fix that, because what happened was I finished this and I realized as I was trying to turn it, my opening was this big. And that's definitely not enough. So I had to open it out here, especially with this being so thick. There's no way I could have crunched it through this opening that big. That's why I went out further. And when I went out further, that's why I had a little damage there. But I will do a second one. But it's good to show you that I'm not embarrassed by any foibles that I make, because I think it helps you learn, what happens in that part of it. And part of the process, a lot of times when I'm working, I will go back, I might stitch a section and find out, ooh, that's not right. So I may undo it, and then I'll go to my computer and fix it and resend the design to the machine. As long as it's in the same spot in the hoop, it won't be a problem. And then I page ahead till I get to the spot I'm at. But I'm loving this little window. I think that's just so darn cute. So you can put your USBs in here And so I have a whole collection now of my Janome things. The other day I did our little pin cushion. This was yesterday. This is AccuStitch that we used for that. So that was yesterday's video. All right, everyone, I think I'm about done. Let me go back to the camera and then we'll see what we've got going on here. If there's anything I need to review. Oops, wait, there we go. Hang on one second. There we go. And let's see if it goes back. Oh, I got to close my software, sorry. And put this on. There we go. All right, I'll find my way. Clicking all the wrong buttons. I've had a really weird Facebook week this week. I've been locked out of Facebook. Yesterday I had some issues with Facebook. Every device I go on now, I have to re-log into Facebook. My messages aren't working. I don't know, some weird things happening. So the cards aren't in the right way. So let me just double check our comments to see if there's any things. And I'm sorry I didn't move my screen before, but I did go back to the beginning so you guys didn't miss anything on that part of it. All right, so I think that's it. Stay tuned for, I'll be back next week with another project on Thursday. I don't know, I'll let you know during the week. I did something new this week, is I put in for Thursdays a event, and I did it both on the Janome sewing machine page here and also over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer page. So you can go to events on those pages, and I think you can sign up for the event, and then you'll get a little notice at 3 o'clock. And then I think from the notice you can log on. I can't check it because I made it and I'm on it, so I can't really go, and I'll have to get somebody in my family to test it. But if any of you have tried it and it worked, let me know, because I think somebody had asked me to do that once before to make events. So I branched out and I tried that. All right, so let me know if you have any future questions, just post them down below. I'll be back to check on those. If you need the directions, or they're not really directions, they are a little bit directions. They're over on the Janome Artistic Digitizer Facebook page. You can pick them up there. And Tracy is telling us that this video is always available right here on this page, on our Janome Sewing Machines page. All the videos we do here are always saved here, so you can find them here as well. Or if you're over on the other page, I have them over there as well. But here you can find them, your one-stop shopping for all the videos we do. And just in case you don't know, we do videos Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 3 p.m. Tuesday is Celine. Wednesday, I like to call our educator du jour, or educator maker du jour, and then, or maybe of the day. Maybe we should change that title. And then on Thursday, you have me. And then, of course, on Friday, we're over on the Continental Club page, and that airs at 3 p.m. Those are all Eastern time. We're on the East Coast of the USA. So, and of course, you never miss out, because you can come back and rewatch it at any time in your pajamas if you need to. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. I'm done for now. I think I have a little project tomorrow, but I always like to say have a good weekend. I'll see you again next week, and thanks for joining me.